Hey guys, it's been a while. Last time you saw me, I was in Malaysia. In the meantime, I've been in Vietnam and now I'm back in Bali. And I'm actually recording this from a very small guest house room that I'm currently staying in. But what I want to talk about today is that when we just got to Bali, actually the first day we got back, we went to Bali Beach Glamping, which is a hotel here in Bali. A glamping site, if you don't know what that is, kind of luxury camping in tents, but when you see what I'm about to show you, you can see that it's not tents. It was very nice. They are not sponsoring this video at all. I did work with them, but they did not pay me to do anything in this capacity of the video. I just wanted to show you what we made. So this is outside of the scope of what we are actually going to work with them about, but we decided to shoot an entire story instead of just doing what everyone else is doing when they work with hotels. It's just showing the rooms. I've done that before myself as well, showing a bit of the experiences and kind of just making those influencer videos. Now, I'm not saying that what I'm about to show you is not that, but we tried at least to take a different approach, and that's what I wanted to show you today. So before I get into anything, let's just watch the video. Alright, so now you saw the commercial kind of video that we made, and I want to walk you through what our thought process was and how we made this basically. So let's go through the process of first planning the shoot, then actually getting to the site and shooting, a little bit about the edit, how I went about that, and then what I did with the color grade. So it's going to be brief. I'm not going to go in detail, but you can always leave a comment down below if there's something that you would like me to explain more in depth, and I'm happy to make a video on that at a later date. But today, let's just get into it. So the first thing is the planning. And now, as I just mentioned, we were actually in Vietnam before. We traveled for 3 weeks and we were exhausted. We were looking very much forward to this stay and hopefully being a little bit more luxurious than what we've been staying in of small rooms and somewhat nice hotels sometimes in Vietnam, but mostly we were traveling about buses and yeah, that's another story for another day. But we were very happy, but we were also very exhausted to go shoot this. So we tried to come up with a story, and I said we wanted to do something different. So I had to make 2 shorter videos. So we kind of came up with a story that could be split into 2 for shorter videos, but also could work as a larger or longer video, as that's what we wanted for our portfolio. And that is exactly what this is, by the way. It is a video for our portfolio, as we would love to work with hotels in the future. So this is our first kind of tests to do a more commercial-like video of this capacity with a hotel. So the planning pretty much went from, it is a beach glamping, and since we don't bring around a lot of lights in terms of gear, we only shoot with my Canon R6 camera here, And we also shot with my drone, the Mavic 2 Pro. So basically very lightweight setup. Only used one lens, the 24-70 that I have on my camera right now. I'll link those down below so you can check those out. But just to get the gear out of the way, because I know that's going to be a question, we wanted to keep it simple. And as it's a glamping site and a beach glamping, to be more specific, we wanted to showcase, of course, the beach. So the kind of scenery or the story that we came up with was to go to the beach, have a nice stroll in the morning, then come back to the hotel or to the cafe, have a coffee, then kind of chill out in the area, explore it a little bit, use some of the facilities to either work, or in this case, we used the iPad to kind of have like I was editing a photo, but you can't see that because the light was kind of changing and the reflection didn't really help us out with that. So you can't really see what I'm doing, but it still gives this cozy vibe that I'm using the iPad for something. I'm chilling in the kind of hammock cool thing that was outside of our tent, which was pretty nice. And then showcasing, walking around the area a little bit, showing that there's a swing, and then of course the pool area, because they have an infinity pool. That was kind of a cool thing to show. Did the kind of influencer walk on the edge of the pool, which you have to do that. I mean, it's an infinity pool. And then we wanted to kind of switch it up. Ideally, it was more of a switch between Joya, who was in the first part of the video primarily, of her being the morning shot, and then me being the one that went to get the cocktail or order the cocktails. And what we agreed with the hotel was that they would make a few cocktails. We also wanted this to stand out. So we saw a lot of other videos that others had done. They were always showcasing kind of the tents and the area, but none of them were really showcasing the food or the cocktails or anything like that. So that's what we kind of went for. And we had them make some cocktails, and we had the entire attention from all the guests there as the bartender was making the cocktails. Were quite funny, but all the shots that you saw there was him making 2 cocktails, and it was kind of funny to shoot because I tried to tell him to slow down and take it a bit easy, but he was a little bit nervous. Of course, there's a camera pointing at him, and his boss was also watching, so what to do, he just kind of did his best, and it was very good. But it also meant that I only had 2 takes. I also had to focus on getting the shots, and I wasn't shooting in slow motion, so I just had to try and keep steady. And I was moving around, so I tried to switch up the angle every time he tried to do something different, or he was switching it up, or he was filling up with ice or something that I didn't need to capture. So I was trying to move around and get those kind of shots, but these were just 2 takes, moving around, shooting a lot of like fast shots and some a little bit longer to try and capture what he was doing. It's a little bit shaky, it's a little bit all over the place, but I kind of liked the result and it came out pretty good. So that was that part. And then we walked around the area a little bit to kind of showcase that we were having the drinks or the cocktails. So that was the story that we came up with a little bit of an intersection of the cocktail story here. Again, I said we shot it with a very small setup, and we kind of just relied on shooting what we had talked about. We tried to make a shot list, but it didn't really work out. And the reason for that was that we were just exhausted. And we didn't really know the area that well. We came in very late in the evening, so it was dark. We went around the area a little bit, but it was kind of difficult to imagine what it would look like exactly when we got to daylight, apart from what we'd seen on their Instagram already. So moving away from that, let's jump into the edit, and I'll just showcase a few of like the screen of the editing here. And I'm not gonna talk too much in depth of it because there isn't really that much to it. I cut it to the beat. The 2 songs that you're hearing in the edit are from Artlist. There's also a link in the description here. If you want to get 2 months for free, you can do that. They're not sponsoring this video either, but it helps me out and helps them out. It helps you out. Everyone's happy. I actually wanted to go with the first song that you hear throughout the entire video, but then as we came to the cocktail scenes, it kind of didn't feel like it fit as well. So I kind of went into the more, I wanted to search for something Latin, and I found that song that we're using now, and I felt that it fit pretty well with the cocktail scene. So I liked how that turned out. So that was song-wise, went to Artlist, went with 1 song, and then just added in the other song by fading out the first one and fading in the second one. That's so simple. That was all I did. Editing-wise, it's mostly just cut. You don't see any fancy transitions a lot. I didn't use any presets or fancy things to make it stand out. I just kind of wanted the story to carry through the video. And for me, that's quite an important point as well. You don't need all the fancy transitions. You don't need all the fancy effects always. The story always comes first. And if you can showcase that, then that's all good. My best example is if you watch a movie, you don't see a lot of fancy effects in most movies. Most of them are just cut very well throughout the story to tell the story. You don't need fancy transitions. But then that said, we did use a few cool transitions, I think at least. Very simple still, but one of them is panning behind the tree. Moving on to the next scene, I basically just masked out the right side of that frame. And then the other one was one that we talked about when we were talking about how to make the cocktail scene, the getting ready shots from moving from the bathroom shot and then into the room. The way that we shot that was that I stood in the middle of where you could pan from the bathroom to the room. And I shot her getting ready and I just shot it out and I tried to make it a steady motion. And then I just kept holding the camera and Joya went over and took the camera in the exact same place so we could easily pan between them. And then we took a few shots where she panned from an empty bathroom into the room where I was then walking and she told me go, so I knew when to walk. And after a few attempts, that worked out. So I'm pretty happy with that. So as you see in the edit, there's a lot of clips. We actually didn't shoot for that long. I think in total we maybe shot 2 to 4 hours because we also just wanted to enjoy the stay. So we got all that we needed in those hours, and we also couldn't shoot in the middle of the day because the light was too harsh, or we could shoot, but I didn't really want the harsh light. So that's how we went about it. Made sure that we shot in the morning, and the cocktail shots we shot, I think, around 3 to 5 p.m. because it was shot inside the bar, but we also wanted to make sure that we had enough light, because if we shot in the afternoon, we would have to rely on the lights inside the bar, and we didn't really know how good they would be, so the shots would probably be very noisy and very dark. Didn't really want that in the video, so that's why we shot that then. And then we could just enjoy the evening and have fun. And then the next day we actually shot all the pool scenes, because the first morning we woke up, we couldn't shoot the pool scenes as there was already people there when we were done shooting all the other stuff. So we decided to do that the next morning. And then we also just got up early to enjoy the rest of the day that we had there before we had to move on. Sorry that I'm mixing everything together a little bit, but I hope you still follow along. So that was kind of the editing. Again, very simple. A lot of shots, but the story is kind of what we shot, and we shot it through. We didn't have a shot list, so we just relied on having as many wide, medium, and close-up shots as we could, and then we progressed through it. Now, if you just quickly touch upon the color grading, you can see here that it looks quite simple. I didn't go for anything super fancy in this. I just kind of wanted the deeper greens. I wanted Joya to stand out in the shots that she were in, and I'm just doing kind of what I always do, apart from one thing. I tried to make it a little bit more of a production kind of workflow this time. So I actually grouped the drone shots for themselves and the camera shots for themselves. All the camera shots was shot in the Canon, so that was kind of easy. Then moving on to that, I had now 3 sections that I could work with. I had the pre-clip, which was gonna grade all the clips in that group, so either the camera or the drone. Then I had the clip, which would be individually for each clip, and then I had the post clip. So what I did, you can see it very easily here, or very briefly here. The pre, I had my color space transform, where I transformed it from Canon log or D-log into DaVinci Wide Gamut. I have a video on that if you don't know what that is, but it's basically a bigger color space. Then I did my basic few corrections, not a lot, maybe a little bit of white balance if I needed that, maybe a little bit of contrast, mostly for the drone shots. They just needed a little bit after the conversion. Then I went to the clips and I corrected everything so the shots look neutral. Then I moved on to the post clip to do my color grading, which were my primaries, get my look in with the curves, get a little bit more contrast and saturation, and kind of control the shadows and the balance. And that worked across all the clips in the group. So because it's 2 different color codecs, the D-log and the Canon log, I decided to group them individually, and also because they need a little bit of tweaking each of them themselves. That's why I grouped them individually, so that I could grade them individually as well. And then I went back into my clips and I kind of appended my node tree and my masking tree just to get some more focus in the middle and make sure that I had some highlights and shadow balance, just the way I like to grade. But not as much as I usually do, just to kind of keep it subtle. And I wanted to make it look nice and feel natural. And I kind of felt like I was grading a movie. It was very much fun. So that's how I went about the color grading. And now you see the final product, or you can go back to the beginning and see the final product again. The only thing that I could add that I didn't add yet, I might do it later, was sound design. I haven't yet decided if I want to do that, because that's going to add another layer to it. And if I decide to go with sound design, I have to go all the way through. And it's a 2-minute video, so I'm not yet sure if I want to do that. But for now, this is what we got. This is mostly just for our portfolio that we can reach out to, and we want to do a lot more with this. And I felt like it was fun to talk about the experience of doing this for the first time, for real. I've done a little bit before, but this was the first time where we actually approached it as a shoot and as a story like this. So it's fun to do. And telling you about the first experience of doing this, it'll be fun to do it there later down the line as well, and kind of show you how we progress and how we get more professional about it as well, even though I think we went pretty professional about this as well. Joy did a very good job modeling and shooting some of the scenes. I'm very used to shooting with my camera now, so the settings is second nature, and that's kind of just, yeah, I know how to shoot with my Canon R6 and in C-Log to get the shots that we need. I did overexpose them a little bit, but I'm pretty confident in the color grading as well, so I can pull that back even when it's a little bit too much. So super happy with how it turned out, especially considering how much time I spent on it. The one thing that I didn't mention is how much time I spent editing color grading. So let's just go through as a last note how much time each step took. I think we spent about 2 hours in total on planning, but there was only like an hour or half an hour where we actually sat down and talked about it. The rest was kind of mixed in between dinners and plane flights and other stuff. So I think 2 hours in total maybe, and also trying to make a little bit of a shot list. Then I think we spent about somewhere between 2 and 4 hours shooting, which is not a lot, but we got what we needed. And that's the kind of having the story and maybe a shot list as well. I'm not the best at following a shot list, but that'll help you to have that. If you have a clear story, okay, we need to shoot this. Now we got the scenes. I'm a visual thinker, Joyous as well. So we can kind of see the story unfold. We can look at some of the shots and we can be like, okay, I think we got it. Then we can move on to the next. Didn't want to spend too much time, which was a great asset in this, because then we didn't spend too much time recording a scene either. And for the color grading and editing, I think I spent around 2 full days, but that was also just because I had a lot of fun with it. And the color grading took a little bit longer because I went with the full kind of production workflow that I wanted to test out and see how that worked. So yeah, that's how I went about it, and we went about it. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of video. It was fun to make, kind of just sitting down, talking to the camera and explaining our process of going through the shoot. It's an amateur shoot. Obviously, we didn't bring lights, we didn't bring talent, we didn't bring makeup artists or anything. We just did all of it ourselves. But I hope it shows you how much you can do if you just get comfortable with your camera, get comfortable with editing and color grading, and then you can actually pull off something like this if you just know a little bit about when to shoot in terms of the light. And yeah, I'm super happy with the result. We're super stoked to make a lot more of this. And as said, if you want to see more of this on the channel, please comment below and let me know, because I would love to do this. And also, if you have any questions about the process or if you want me to dive more into the grading, let me know. I'm happy to do so. But until the next time, take care.